Hey, Rebel Bankers, this is your host, Chris Noggle, and welcome back to the show. Today, I am joined by Zachary Beach from the Smart Real Estate Coach. And, here's the unique thing about what Zachary and I were just talking about is not only is he only 29 years old, and any of you that are watching this video, you'll see he looks like he's 23. But for those of you that are only listening, just going to have to just take my word on that one. So he has done over 100 plus deals in 3 years. And did I say he was 29 years old? I don't know if I missed that one. Without using his own cash, without using his own credit, and with only using other people's money. So we felt he was a perfect fit for the Real Estate Money School because that's what we talk about, real estate and money and his journey. So that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about his journey from how he went from being a bartender, a personal trainer, knowing nothing about real estate, to this amazing story that in 3 years has done over 100 plus deals. He just stopped counting is what he said, but I'm just making it up. It's probably more than 100 deals. So with that being said, we have Zachary on here. So Zachary, welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks for the fantastic introduction. You make me sound way better than I actually am. And if you're looking on screen, I guess you guys just can't see my gray hairs because looking 23, I appreciate the compliment, but I probably look 35.
Oh, yeah, no, you definitely look young. You look young. And this audience is going to probably love this one because it's going to be all about your journey. And I love the fact that, you kind of got down in the weeds a little and told me you started as a bartender and a personal trainer and then boom, like into real estate. So that's what a lot of the audience wants to hear is how that journey happened. And a lot of times we're talking about the journey to becoming a rebel banker, which is kind of what we talk about on this show. And, some of the most important things are just getting out of your comfort zone, taking action, taking that leap. Sometimes it starts with just reading books like our book, The Private Money Guide, or your book, which we're going to talk about. And I believe you said you were going to give your book away. I hope I'm not saying that wrong.
Yes, we will give our book away.
They're going to give their book away on the show today. And, but you guys, you just got to all get started. And I think this story is going to help you do that because anybody that goes from a humble background like this all the way to doing 100 plus deals at the age of 29, we just got to hear the story. So Zachary, with that being said, can you just tell us a little bit about what your business looks like today? And then just after you're done telling us about the business today and what you're doing, let's take a trip back in time to when you were a bartender and then how this amazing transformation happened.
Yeah, so my business, I actually work with my brother-in-law and father-in-law. We buy and sell property on terms. So anything associated with lease options, owner financing, subject to deals. So without using our own cash, credit, begging investors for money, we buy everything on a contract. That way we are 100% protected when it comes to the ups and downs of the real estate market. So what our business looks like today is internally, so locally, we're buying about 2 to 4 properties a month as a family company. But then we also do another, say, 10 to 15 deals around the country with what we call associates. So associates are people we lock arms with and help them build up, do transactions for them, build and scale up their business as well to mirror and mimic the one that we built down here in New England.
New England, yeah. You can kind of tell from the accent. So for anyone on this, like we finally, we got somebody from the East Coast. We always have West Coasters on here.
Yeah, well, I'm born and raised in central Massachusetts and then ended up moving down here to Newport, Rhode Island, down here on Aquidneck Island, which is fantastic. And that's why I never went back to the central Mass. Yeah, born and raised, Worcester, Massachusetts. Not going back, though.
Well, you're not going back there, but let's go back to your humble beginnings of when you were a bartender. Just tell the audience a little bit about what that was like, actually get in the weeds a little bit about kind of what it was when you were a bartender, personal trainer. How the heck did you go from that to knowing nothing about real estate to where you're at today? How did that transformation happen? And also along the way, like money. Let's add the money aspect. Like, was there struggles with money? I mean, were just crushing it doing the bartending thing? And just let's talk all about that because a lot of people really firmly believe that in real estate, they got to have money in order to, get into it. And here you did all this without using your own cash or credit. So people need to know this. Tell the story.
Yeah, we got a lot to cover at such a short period of time. I mean, talk about money paradigms. I mean, I am and the absolute person when it comes to money paradigms. I had a single mother, cashier at Lowe's. I'm also that prime example of, I know everybody's read the Rich Dad, Poor Dad book. I would consider myself that main character in the book because I had my poor dad and I had my rich dad, which is my father-in-law. So I was able to kind of utilize both sides of that story. So yeah, I came from Central Mass, single mother, ended up, as soon as I left college, I had zero idea what I wanted to do. I just knew I wasn't employable. So I went and I started bartending. And then I started creating a small personal training business on the side as well, in order to make ends meet, plus to start to build up towards my lifestyle. Because if you've been in, anybody's out there and they've been in the hospitality business, the restaurant business, it is cutthroat. It is crazy. We were talking about how packed our schedule was and how tired both of us are here. I was always 10 times more tired because I was a slave. I was bartending. I was working late nights. And then I'd wake up in the morning, really early in the morning, and then I'd personal train in order to make some additional income. So when I turned about 25 years old, my father-in-law has been in real estate for a long period of time and lived right down the road from me at that time. So I said, I'm about done with bartending. I'm starting to get extremely tired of this, and I want something more for myself. I don't know if I'm going to like real estate. It's not like I woke up or I had dreams of becoming a real estate entrepreneur. I just knew it was better than what I was doing at the time. So I went to father-in-law Chris, and he was working with my brother-in-law, and I said, hey, guys, I'd like to join the family business. Let's see where it goes. So I just started making phone calls, cold calls during the night off from the other gigs I was working. So it became extremely hectic. But then one day in April, which is 4 years being bartender, I cut the ties from that and I made the leap. And I've had many people say to me, well, it was probably easy for you to make that leap. I mean, you're about to enter the family business. Well, we didn't have a salary. You entered the business and you get paid for what you killed, right? There's that old saying. So I had to start producing and bringing in deals in order for myself to get paid. So it was a pretty big jump in my mind because I was super unfamiliar with the territory, but with a fantastic team, my family team, our associates, we ended up crafting it up and ended up doing, ended up escalating the business, and I ended up enjoying it. So here I am 4 years later.
That's crazy. Oh my gosh. All right. So
I know you asked about money, so we can hit that too. So being a bartender, it sounds great. I'll tell you, the first time I actually started bar back when I was in college, and I got, because the bar I worked at, you get paid in cash with cars at the time. So I got $100, but it was all like ones and fives. So it looked like this huge stack. So I got home and I get home, and my wife was just joined hospitality as well. And I tossed all the money on the bed. And it was like this big celebration because it's probably the most money I made in a night. But then obviously as life progresses, like making, $200 a night, and doesn't end up being that much money, to be 100% honest with you. So especially for the time and energy you put into it. So eventually I hit a ceiling. I was one of the head bartenders. I knew looking at that, like, this is my life for the next 5, 10, 20 years if I decide not to make a change. So money-wise, it was fun, but just not enough.
It's interesting that you just said something there, and it just hit me. I guess I get so used to kind of just being where I'm at now. And, I always remember where I came from. And now knowing what you know and how real estate works and everything, I mean, my God, most people won't even get out of their seat for $200 in real estate. But yet that was like what we used to hustle for, $200. That was like, oh my God, I got enough money to go the whole weekend, go out, have fun, do whatever. And now it's like $200, whatever. It's just strange dynamic of how that changes. And I'm not saying that to kind of, say it in the wrong light, because, there's nothing wrong with making $200 and working hard for it. But man, if people would just learn, if they just would learn the secrets to the success in real estate and the different things that you're doing and we're doing, and how much of a change that makes, not only in your life, but your mindset, just everything. Because making money, it really becomes more about accomplishing your goals. Once you stop focusing on trading hours for dollars and you start focusing more on where am I going? What am I trying to accomplish? Then the money that $200 that you used to get so excited, really each one of those is just another tool in the tool chest to get you to that end goal. And then when you hit that goal, especially, and if you're anything like we are with real estate, we hit a goal and then all of a sudden we're like, well, yeah, but we could go there. And then you just go to the next goal and the next one. And every day just seems like the journey's just beginning. I mean, at what point did that happen for you where you realized wow, I used to hustle to make $200, and now with doing 100+ deals? I mean, it's just such a strange mindset shift.
Yeah, I actually didn't it was that story just came to my mind on the spot. It's not like I tell everybody all of the time. It just happened to be top of mind, I guess, in my subconscious. I think at each stage of our cash in my pocket allowed me to get a nice rental apartment in downtown Newport, which is a party town. I get to have fun. I get to do whatever I wanted at that time. But then as I started to progress and I became into my mid-20s, I had bigger priorities. I said, I want family. I need to start figuring out ways to start making more money and to start living a lifestyle. So I think first and foremost, writing out goals or knowing where we want to go is going to directly impact the amount of cash flow that we're going to be receiving. Because if you have huge goals like you were just talking about, then it's a natural progression to learn more and more skills in order to acquire more wealth, which then will help you to reach your goals. So if you think real small, then you're going to end up acquiring really small. But if you think big, you need to, as a personal growth factor, you have to grow and expand in order to accomplish those bigger goals. So it's just a natural progression for growth. So your mindset generally changes because you're looking for new things and attracting new things in this world.
And during that journey of going from bartender to 100+ deals in only 3 years, what were some of the biggest obstacles you had to overcome?
Yeah, I would say that the one thing, and I talk about this a lot with my students, is I was emotionally tied to my results, which you start to live a roller coaster lifestyle. Mm-hmm. So when I first came into real estate, all I did was make outbound calls to acquire leads from prospects from either expired listings or for sale by owners or for rent by owners. I would spend 50 to 60 hours a week just making outbound calls. So the first thing was learning my scripts, of course, foundational, but that's a huge obstacle, especially when you know zero about real estate. Then next is being able to develop those personal skills. I had some of them because I was a bartender. I think a lot of those things, translate over. I think we all, have different stages of our lives and you continue to acquire those skills. So that was my next thing. And then from there, it was more of crafting and understanding the terminology and deal structuring. I would say a majority of people end up joining, say, our coaching programs or our associate program because of deal structuring, because you don't want to leave a lot of money on the table. And you also want to be at a point where you're not over leveraging yourself or not being too risky, not taking on a bad deal and finding the good deal. So there was just stages upon stages of things that I needed to acquire in a short period of time. But I think I just needed to acquire it as fast as possible and going from 0 to 100. So, tell me, I guess there isn't a thing that wasn't hard when I first started. Nothing really came easy. I willed myself to it.
And what do you think the biggest change, over those 3 years has been? Whether it's, as a person, financially, what's been the biggest change in your life from, 3 years ago till now? Outside of less time and less sleep.
Well, I mean, that's what we're always looking for, right? New ways to be more efficient and acquire our time back. That's what building and scaling a business is all about, right? Is creating that time freedom and still producing, if not getting better results. But I'd say the biggest change always is personal development. You're never going to exceed the amount of wealth that you have unless you build yourself up. Today, I'm not going to be able to make any more money than I'm worth, right, to the value of the people around me. But if I know more and I can produce more, which could mean that I scale up the business and now I'm helping people underneath me in order to help them be more productive. Well, that helps scale the business. Well, now I become worth more. So personal development is 100% it. I constantly focus on that. which comes down to both spiritually and when I say spiritually, I'm not religious. I know there are some people out there, but spiritually, working on, manifesting, visions, things like that, spending more time there, but also acquiring the knowledge and skills in order to be hyper productive and better leadership skills.
So for a lot of the audience that's listening, I mean, they may be listening and saying, wow, that's incredible, 3 years. But, you had the rich dad, poor dad thing going on where you had Chris, who I assume, is Chris the rich dad?
Yeah, that'd be okay. If you saw pictures of both of them, then you'd know.
Yeah. So I just know pictures of Chris, and Chris will be here speaking at our event next month in December. But so if somebody doesn't have that mentor, that person that's in their family, that's close to them, what advice would you give to somebody that's, let's say 29, 25, 26 years old, they're bartending, maybe they're doing some personal training and they're just wondering like, what's the next step? Like, how would they get there? I mean, if they're on a limited income, they don't have much money at all. And they're just like, well, I see these people crushing it, making all this money, but I need money to get there. Like, what would be your advice on how they could do that, or a couple golden nuggets you could throw their way?
Oh, absolutely. So it's, in this day, number one, in this day's this age, technology, being able to go on YouTube, podcasts, like there's so many people, even if they're not a physical mentor to you, there's so much knowledge out there if you take advantage of it, that they can be your mentors from afar. So I went through, just throwing another wrench in there, I went through some things in my life. I had a drug problem, and I had to climb out of that. So my first mentor really was Bob Proctor.
Oh, Bob, yeah.
I love Bob Proctor. So he was a mentor from afar for me. I attended a couple of his events. I read his books. I would go on YouTube. I would fill my mind with his knowledge. So you don't need to go out there and spend a ton of money on a mentor. Now, I did have, eventually Chris ended up developing being one of my mentors as well, and now we're my business partners, which is fantastic. But I didn't even access that until I was 25, right? He called me crazy or ignorant at the time. But what I did was I searched for people that were just in a position that were maybe just slightly either in front of me, which could have been so another mentor of mine, which he doesn't even know it, was my CrossFit trainer, Kai. So when I was going through that life event, I needed a place to fill the void. So I started searching out for working out. So he ended up becoming a mentor of mine, just helping me learn physically and mentally get stronger. And then once I got there, I found some additional mentors. And just looking at myself now, I have a coach for almost every single aspect of my life. So I have a personal development coach. Her name's Dr. Mandis. She's fantastic. Chris is always my right-hand man when it comes to buying and selling real estate. But then also we're involved in other niches in real estate as well, which we have coaches for. So the nuggets always should be, or the things you can take away from this are, take advantage of the vast knowledge that's out there that's free. YouTube, Facebook, podcast, and search for people that you can 100% relate to. And then find people within your immediate network that are at least walking or running in the same direction as you. So lose your friends that are going in a different direction. Start finding people and start finding meetup groups that have people that maybe want to get involved in real estate. Find a real estate meetup group. And then find who's the best real estate investor in that group and buy him coffee and start to become friends with him or her. So just make those small little baby steps. And then once you develop a big enough bank account where you can heavily invest in yourself, then start seeking out the big people in the networks or the niches, because those are the ones that are eventually going to take you up and over the top.
Yeah, I think that's some great advice. Just, putting yourself around those people that are doing what you want and that can do what you want. And, if it's not somebody in your family, well, then seek them out, find them. And I love what you said about like technology. I mean, it is like, you want to find somebody, go on YouTube, find somebody you relate to, go on podcasts, find somebody you relate to, then track it down and look at what event are they going to be at. Spend $50, sit in the very back, but do everything you can to make yourself get up in the front and get noticed. One way, if they ask a question to the audience, scream from the back of the room, a question, just make yourself known. You don't have to be in the front row paying the big money for the front row seats at an event. Sometimes it's the guy in the back that I look for. The guy in the back is that guy that's going to stand up and make noise. That's the person I'm looking at. That's the person that's got the heart that I want. The people in the front, maybe they've made it. Maybe they just want to showboat and pay for the big, expensive seats, but it's the guys in the back, the guys that want it the most, but they got to make the noise. So that's not just at events. That's everywhere you go. You got to make noise. You're going to have to somehow get noticed. And sometimes that's going to be definitely meaning stepping out of your comfort zone. I mean, you probably could have just continued doing the bartending and the personal training and been comfortable, but no, you came in on your days off, did what most people dread, which is cold calling, just picking the phone up and dialing, and probably hearing lots of no's, being told, I can't even imagine what people told you. Actually, I know exactly what they've said to you, and they don't want to hear it. And you just got to keep calling until you get that one yes. And when you get that one yes, all those no's all just kind of fade away. And the only thing you're focused on is that yes. And it's kind of what you were saying there.
Yeah, I think it took me about 6 months to get my first deal done. So it wasn't like I walked in here and had some deals lined up on the table. It was just like you said. And what I was alluding to earlier, you just can't be emotionally tied to your end results. As long as you continue to work better at your craft and keep the task at hand, then you're going to get the results. It's not an if, it's a when. And if you have the ability to dedicate, and I say it's the ability to dedicate because commitment is a muscle. Commitment and discipline is definitely a muscle that you don't always have at the beginning, but once you get honed in and once you continue to practice it, you then can develop that muscle and hit all of your goals that you choose to.
And one last thing, just because I feel this is important, primarily for your accomplishments you've done in the short time you have, and it's your age. Tell the audience, what was that first deal like? What was it like and take it right from how you acquired the deal? Like if it was a cold call, walk us through that first deal.
Yeah, this is a good one because there's some great learning lessons involved in there. So I called on an expired listing for a property up in central Massachusetts. The seller was selling the property for exactly what he owed. He just went through a divorce. He didn't want to be in that property anymore. I don't think he could really afford it. And the market was basically saying you have to sell us exactly what you owe. So we ended up buying the property subject to the existing loan. So we ended up closing on it, taking title, but the loan, we acknowledged that there's still a loan. So we're going to continue to make payments on the loan. We then placed a tenant buyer in the property. So we place buyers that they're just outside of financeability and they need a rent to own program in order to become mortgage ready. After that tenant buyer's in the property, we then found out, because she was a little off kilter, we then found out that there was lead in the property because this property is like a much older house, 1700s house. We did our due diligence. Where we checked to see if there was a lead certificate. We checked town records. It stated, because it was in two towns. It was in two towns because Jefferson is in two different towns. So in one town it said that there was lead, in one town it said there was lead. Well, the seller stated that he didn't know. We knew he knew. But bought the property. So we had to do a $30,000 de-lead job. So at first deal, probably subject to existing loan, we just bought for what it owed and $30,000 de-lead job. So you gotta love that, right? I was trying to prove myself, and here I am. Luckily, we had the ability to have credit lines associated with the property, so we were able to go in, pay the credit lines, and pay for the de-lead job. And then time was the saving grace. Time was the saving grace because that market eventually appreciated. The principal paid down, and then we ended up selling the property about 3 years later and made a $70,000 profit minus the $30,000. So luckily, there's a couple learning lessons there. So number one, always have your credit line set up, right? Because as soon as we went and did another deal, we paid them down. That $30,000 could kill most people in real estate. Mm-hmm. But if you don't have the proper things set up ahead of time for your business, then that just kind of washes away. And then the way we bought it and took title on the house allowed us to use the market to our advantage and allow the principal to pay down. That way it became a successful deal in the long run. But at the front end, it didn't look too great.
Wow. That's a great story on the first house. That first one you do and you get popped like that. You're right though. That would have taken people by surprise, and a lot of people that weren't ready man, that could have just put him right out of business. That could have been a really bad situation. And boy, lead's a tough thing. We're seeing a lot of it around here in Buffalo because we do have the older houses, and the city's on a rampage going around with their little laser pointers finding lead. So yeah, you got to be ready for these unforeseens. You just got to be ready for them. And luckily you kind of had the resources to be able to do that, and it worked out really well. So with that, like, how do people find out about what you do, about how you were able to do this and the different things you guys do as a company?
Yeah, we talked about at the beginning, like, let's start with our free book that we just put out, our second Amazon best-selling book. Me, my father-in-law, and brother-in-law all co-authored it. Fantastic book, The New Rules of Real Estate Investing. It includes, I think, 20 other leading experts, but it's 24 leading experts within real estate right now. So it's not just our niche; it's a bunch of niches in there. So you're definitely going to pull a ton of nuggets in there. And then we created it in a cool way where at the end of each chapter there's notes and key takeaways and action items. So this isn't a book that you're just going to be leisurely reading through. You're going to be able to get some real cool nuggets you can put into action immediately. So the best way to do that is to go to newrulesforfree.com. That's newrulesforfree.com. We will ship it to you. No shipping, no handling, absolutely free. Hardcover book, just absolute killer. So go ahead and enjoy that and start diving through that, and then that'll put you within our atmosphere, and you'll start to learn some new things on how to buy and sell real estate without using your own cash, credit, and investors' money, and how to create 3 distinctive paydays that pays you now, monthly, and on the back end.
So newrules.com, right, for the free book?
Newrulesforfree.com.
For free.
And that is FOR, not the letter 4. It's FOR. New Rules for Free.
Forfree.com. And you're giving away a hardcover book. That's pretty impressive. So I don't know, any of you guys listening to this, you guys just jump on that. I'm definitely going to. As soon as I'm done with this, I'm going to go in, punch in, and get myself a book. And I want to learn some of these things too, because you know what? No matter how good you think you are or how good somebody is in real estate, there's always something they can learn, because there's always somebody out there pushing the limits and trying to find better ways to do what has been being done for hundreds of years in real estate. And it's constantly evolving, and there's constantly people finding more efficient ways to do things. I mean, right there, you've got it. 20-some-year-old bartender goes 100+ deals in 3 years without using any of his own money or his own credit. If that doesn't motivate you enough just to read the book, then there's something wrong with you. You need psychiatric help if that's the case. But we're going to skip to psychiatric help today, and we're just going to assume that you're all going to just grab a copy of the book, sit down for a couple nights, and read the darn thing and make it happen. And that's kind of going into, what I always talk about on this show. You guys just got some crazy golden nuggets. You've got the answers right there in a book as to how he did it and some of the secrets of what they used. Now, the question is are you going to take action? Because so many people out there are just gobbling up all this knowledge. They're out there just seeking knowledge, finding knowledge. But you got to put action to the knowledge. You got to put some action to what you're learning, because if you don't actually take action on what you're learning, nothing happens. And this is simple. You just go to that website, newrulesforfree.com, and you get yourself a free book. That's like the reward. I'll be curious to hear and to see how many of you actually take action on that. So that's the burden on you now. Take action, make it happen, and get started to becoming a Rebel Banker. And being a Rebel Banker means you have freedom and control of your life and your finances, and that's what you want. This book will help you. My book, The Private Money Guide, will help you. Get started right now. All right. Well, Zachary, it's been a real pleasure. I know it was kind of rapid fire right out of the hole, but we got her done.
Yeah, Chris, thanks for having me on. I very much appreciate that, and I will absolutely second that. Motivation is great, so don't just take this as a motivational video or podcast. Motivation is great, but it's nothing if you don't take action.
That's true. Very true. Spoken in the best way it can be spoken. Thank you all for joining me joining us for another episode of the Real Estate Money School. We'll catch you guys in the next episode.